200K, 50,000 to walk. Man, I ain't even got $50 right now. He's sitting in the cell right now. I feel like I failed my boy, man.
New footage of King Yella breaking down over his son has hit the internet, and it is hard to watch. He is sitting in front of a camera, not performing, not rapping, just a father. His 18-year-old son got arrested in Las Vegas on multiple robbery charges. The bond was set at $200,000, meaning $50,000 needs to hit the table for the boy to walk before trial. And Yella said on camera that he does not have $50 to his name. He keeps coming back to one line, "I feel like I failed my boy. Y'all don't know how that's eating me up on the inside." But here is the part that stopped the internet cold. King Yella said that even if he had the $50,000, he is not sure he would use it to bail his son out. Sit with that for a minute. Because to understand why a crying father would say that, you have to understand who King Yella actually is and what his entire life has taught him about what happens when consequences never land. King Yella's government name is Simony Lewis, and his story does not start with a choice. It starts with an inheritance. He came up on the south side of Chicago, and he has said in interviews that he was born into the gangster disciples because his father was folks before him. Most people get put on. Yella never had that moment. The nation was already in his household, in his bloodline, and on his block before he could read. He has said he was throwing it up in second grade. His grandmother raised him on West 74th, while his mother bounced between states. He never stayed at one school a full year until 8th grade. Trauma was not one event in his childhood. It was the weather on the block. Then the music came. Around 2010, he planted his flag in the Chicago drill movement right as the sound was catching fire. Projects like the Skis World Tape Series and records like Ready, Set, Go Gang carried his name through the era when World Star was turning Southside rappers into household names. He never touched the commercial heights of Chief Keef or Lil Durk, but he became a fixture, a voice documenting the scene from the inside, while the scene kept burying its own. In 2016, that world almost buried him too. He survived getting shot while filming a music video, an event that put him in a hospital bed and stamped his name in a culture where scars are receipts. And through all of it, he was already somebody's father. He had his first child at 17. Now let's count the years he lost, because they explain everything about the man crying in that footage. In 2010, he caught a charge for aggravated assault on a police officer with a firearm. He disputes how that night actually went down, but the system gave him 3 years and he did about 15 months. That bid cut his rising career off at the knees. In 2018, charges came including domestic battery by strangulation, coercion, and child abuse or neglect. Then came federal time, roughly 3 years down, with his release coming around 2021. While he was locked up in Las Vegas in 2020, news reached him that FBG Duck had been killed. He said he cried like a baby. Even back in the free world, the hits kept coming. In 2023, paperwork surfaced through 190 Jake, alleging that Yella had named figures like Lil Durk, Offset, and 600 Breezy in police conversations. Getting labeled a rat is a death sentence for a reputation built on loyalty, and Yella went at the allegations directly, arguing the names appeared in a police report, not a signed cooperation deal, and pointing to the fact that he was the one who went to the feds, not anyone else. Figures like 600 Breezy still aired him out publicly, and the stain followed him through the scene. In 2025, he got booked again in Las Vegas on an attempted burglary charge, sat at Southern Desert Correctional Center, and caught additional time behind halfway house violations. That same year, the whole internet watched him hit bottom in real time. During a sit-down on Cam Capone News, he killed a full bottle of Crown Royal on camera and fell out of his chair before the interview ended. By early 2026, the damage had stacked into an avalanche. He gambled off $30,000 to $40,000, lost his cars, caught a 7-day eviction notice. His woman, who he calls Mama Lynn, checked out of the relationship. He described them living like strangers under one roof. No affection, no good mornings, nothing. He moved into his little brother's place, and his teenage son moved in with him. That is the environment his son was watching up close. Now here is the thing people need to understand about Yella's son. Yella made a decision years ago that cost him everything he had built in Chicago. When FBG Duck got killed, the same Duck who had refused to leave the city and paid for it with his life, Yella took that as a warning that he already knew. He got out. He brought his son to Las Vegas, specifically to save him from the environment that had swallowed so many people he knew. And for a while, it worked. By Yella's account, His son was an honor roll student, passed his classes, never got suspended, a kid on the right track in a different city with a different future in front of him. Then 2024 came. The son went back to Chicago for a visit and came home a completely different person. One trip. That is all it took to undo years of distance. Yella says the boy came back claiming a set he had no business claiming, idolizing figures in the drill scene the same way a generation of Chicago kids had before him. The problem, Yella said, was that his son was not living that life. He was performing it, copying an image off a screen. And that made it more dangerous, not less, because the boy had none of the instincts that keep people who actually live it alive. The slide was slow, then fast. The honor roll student got kicked out of school. There was talk of him moving weed pens. He caught a case at 18 that got dropped, and the system let him walk right back out the door with no lesson attached. All of this was happening while his father's life was collapsing around him. The gambling losses, the eviction, Mama Lynn leaving. His son had a front row seat to his pop hitting rock bottom. Yella noticed his boy sliding in and out at all hours. One morning, after checking his security cameras and seeing what time his son was actually coming home, he pulled up on him in the bathroom for the conversation every father dreads. He laid it all the way out. All money is not good money. You cannot beat these people. You are not smarter than these people. He even threatened to send the boy back to Chicago if the moving around kept up. His son said all the right things the way teenagers do. Apologized, agreed, told his father what he needed to hear. 2 days later, the bed was empty. A relative called asking if Yella had heard what happened. Robberies. Plural. Not one bad night, a pattern. The bond started at $180,000 and jumped to $200,000 after a court appearance. The boy Yella moved to Vegas to save was sitting in a cell in the same city. Now here is why his response surprised everyone. King Yella made it clear on camera that the video was not a fundraising post. No Cash App, no links, no ask. He said this was about self-awareness, not sympathy. And then he said something that reframed everything. Even if he had the 50 bands, he is not sure he would spend it to bail his son out. That is not a cold man speaking. That is a man who spent 20 years cycling through a system that kept releasing him before the lesson could land. Locked up, let right out. Locked up, let right out. That was the rhythm of his young life, and it taught him nothing about stopping, only about surviving the next arrest. His son already got a taste of the same free pass when his earlier case got dropped. And look at what came 2 days after the bathroom talk. Yella knows exactly where that door leads because he has walked through it more times than he can count. So when he looks at his son in that cell, he does not only see a cage, he sees the one classroom that might actually reach the boy before the streets finish what they started. He closed the video saying that 2 weeks before the phone call about his son, he got baptized. 11 days sober, 10 days in the gym, a man finally reaching for the surface after a lifetime underwater. And then the phone rang. He did not relapse. He did not go ghost. He sat down, told the entire ugly truth about his gambling, his eviction, his failures, and his fear, and said that both he and his son were going to be all right. The case is still ahead. The charges are serious. The bond sits at $200,000. An 18-year-old is waiting on a courtroom, and a father with nothing in his pocket is fighting to stay sober long enough to be standing there when it counts. The cycle that started generations ago on the south side of Chicago has one more chance to break. Whether it does or not is still being decided. Do you think Yella is right to leave his son in there, or do you think he should find a way to get him out? Drop your take in the comments. Subscribe, because when this case hits the courtroom, we will be covering every step of it.